I've been a hygienist for 18 plus years, been in the dental field for 20 plus years. Through all that, I've been a very avid fitness enthusiast through that. I worked at the same office for 16 years and I loved it. I
Wow.
loved going to work. I didn't have like the Sunday blues. I just enjoyed it. That company got sold out and I did actually transition and look for other jobs. As that happened, I realized like there was this huge shift in the dental industry that I was unaware of. From there, I worked in an office for a year and then I went into coaching for dental offices. I
Okay.
was in the offices and I'm there to sit and talk with them through their KPIs. And they're all wanting to talk to me about these problems. I had a hygienist on Zoom calls with me weekly that would be like crying. And they'd be like, I don't know what to do. This is my life. It's a mess. And I'm like, okay, there is a whole other world out here that we are not taking care of. We have this increased rate of changing dental industry where it is being sped up so fast and people are not able to keep up with it. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not taking care of their bodies. And so we have this like unequally matched situation. And I would go into offices and they're like, well, what are you doing to work? Like when you work out, what are you doing? And so I'm getting and I'm sitting there saying, okay, that's great. We can talk about that. But I'm here to talk about your KPIs. And I started to realize there is this missing piece of like people are wanting help with their lives and their health so that they can excel professionally, essentially. It's kind of where I landed with this.
Okay. Okay, so you started as a dental hygienist roughly 16, 20 years ago
Yep.
or so. So let's talk a little bit about that time because this interests me because I'm gonna ask this question first. Who bought the dental company you're working for? Was it a DSO? Tell me a little bit about the nature of that
Yeah. So
transaction.
it was a DSO. And I actually don't have any
Okay.
problem with the DSO. I think they did as well as they could have with the situation they walked into. So I worked for Cody Dental Group, and this was a very, very large ship to try and turn. This office was
Okay.
found in 1946. So it had been around a very long
Okay.
time. It was 3 stories, 9 plus doctors, and each doctor ran their individual practice. So none of the doctors were on a singular system.
Okay. What do you mean
So
by that?
they all had like took certain
Okay.
insurances. So like this doctor would take this insurance, this doctor wouldn't. So it was like this fascinating thing. And to have a DSO walk into that, I can't even wrap my head around because they're walking in and they're like, we have to take this over, convert it into one system that runs. When since 1946, we've had essentially 9 plus offices in one building running individually.
So the way it was set up, it sounds like it was kind of like a DSO, a mini DSO with the nine
Right,
doctors. In essence,
right.
right? Because they didn't have. So when you said they had different pricing, were they using like a different like software each of them, or did they have the same software? Was what was the
Right.
same?
So we did have the same software. And people would often ask me, they're
Okay.
like, well, how does that work? How does the hygienist walk in that day and have patients from every single doctor? And we just did it and it worked, but it didn't work long term. And I saw this ship sinking as I worked there. And it broke my heart because this was my home. But over the years,
Yeah,
I saw like the operatory lights go out. I saw that they weren't able to keep dentists in there because of how they were running their system. So I was like, I'm hanging on to this thing. I love this place. These patients are my patients. I will take care of them till the very end. But essentially, we would walk in and it was like, okay, my first patient is a Dr. Smith patient. My next one is a Dr. So and so patient. And I would take them to the different office managers at the end. So that's kind of how
they had different office managers, each
for
office.
every doctor had their own office manager.
So this wasn't. Gosh, they're going to kill me for saying this, but this wasn't very efficiently ran because it's basically. Okay, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I would imagine every time you hire somebody new, it says we have nine doctors, nine different systems, nine things going on. The learning curve for a new employee had to be
Huge,
off the charts
huge,
difficult,
huge.
right? So was there a lot of turnover at this
No.
place? Really? Why do you say there wasn't a
There
lot of
really
turnover?
wasn't. When I started there, This place was like a tight-knit tribe. So I got to live in this, and I feel so privileged and honored that I actually got to be a part of a practice that was like, this is our tribe. We're going to make this run. And it was a tight community. And that's like one of the biggest things that I've seen over time. When I started in dentistry, it was this multi-generational. So I would have a patient and she's like, I'm bringing my mom in next week. Great. Also, my son's coming in
Mhm.
next week. Great. That's no longer the way the dental systems run at all. Because each individual person is looking at their insurance and they're saying, where can I go? We've lost that.
Okay, so like the loyalty is gone, you think partially because probably a few factors, but you're saying one of the factors is just like, well, they don't accept
Right.
my insurance, so I can't go there. So I have to go here. Okay, so how many years did you work for the DSO when the DSO took
Less than
over?
one.
Less than one. And how many other people were like you that worked
I
for
think we
less than
lost probably about half the staff when they turned over.
half the
Yep.
staff? And if you could just give us your best guess as to what was it about the
Mhm.
DSO that I don't want to say forced, compelled. Let's just call it not a good fit. What happened that says, this isn't right for me? If you could put it in a couple of words, what would you say that is?
Well, it's a few things. And I think, like I said before, no harm against them. What they walked into was like, I can't even wrap my head around it. What they came to tackle was something that kind of was this like heartbreaking, slowly sinking ship. Unfortunately, the way
Yeah,
that the ship ran, and I can, speak from my personal experience, but there was so much patient resistance. So they came in to do the normal things that anybody would expect in a dental office. So your
okay,
payment is due at the time of service. That is
right.
reasonable and understandable. But what happened was,
So, yeah,
yes, and that needs to be happening, but none of that ever happened at Cody. It was like, "We'll send you a bill, tell your mom hi," it just was like this totally different vibe. So my patients are coming to me and they are so angry and they're like, "Why is this?" And I'm sitting there trying to explain, like, "Listen, it's understandable. We actually do need payment at the time of service." And it's like, "Oh, we've never done this." And so it became this tension between these patients that I have cared for 16 years. I've watched their lives unfold and my heart's breaking because I'm like,
uh,
you're feeling the tension of all this, but really it's unreasonable.
yeah. So it's kind of like a personality change. It's
Absolutely.
like they were married to one
Yeah.
dentist. They walk in the next day and they're married to a different dentist, if you will, and everything
Yes.
changed. And the patients weren't uh, groomed,
Right.
if you
Right.
will, for the change, right? That's interesting. I guess I never really thought about it like that from the patient's perspective, where if there's going to be a radical change, and I can understand from the
Yeah.
DSO's group why they say, well, no, we got to bring into the
100%.
family. It's got to look like this. It's got to look like
Yeah.
that. But you're dealing with a culture, and actually, in this case, an extended culture with the
Right.
patients,
Right.
right? And it's maybe not so easy. So I'm going to share something. It kind of reminds me of
Right.
this. So I used to work for semiconductor
Okay.
company, and we would acquire other semiconductor companies, and it was a lot. It was complicated. Okay, well, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, a DSO taking over a dental group is probably a
Yeah.
1, and this is a 10 because the level of changes that are required are massive because you're dealing with, like, if it's an American company saying buying a company in a different country, you have the cultural issues. They have different software systems, so one might be using Oracle, one might be using SAP, and they're set up completely differently, or they might be using some old system
Yeah.
forever. And so the way that the chips are manufactured, they have to go through this quality
Yeah.
process, and so you cannot just change the software
Right.
like that because it might actually ruin the result of the chips.
Right.
Okay. And so it's very difficult. And so what ends up happening is these conversions take literally years. Like the financial stuff, you can change pretty
Yeah.
fast, but the other stuff, it actually sometimes never gets changed. It never gets
Yeah.
changed. And for a DSO, they're not going to go for that.
Right.
They're going to want to change A to Z. And in this case, what kind of surprises me when they made this purchase that they didn't like, I could be wrong, but I'm going to take a stab at it, that they probably just looking at the financials. I'm assuming they were talking to the main
Mhm.
owner. Maybe they didn't delve in a little bit deeper to realize that the culture here was vastly different than maybe another dental
Right.
office, you know, and I might have made that mistake as well because this is an unusual situation,
Very,
right?
very. And I knew,
Yeah, that's an unusual situation. So that's
yeah, so I knew
interesting.
anybody that walked in there, it was going to be just a huge undertaking because
Was the owner like it was one owner or
no.
was
So it's like all the doctors had, well, not all, but a lot of the doctors had
uh,
ownership shares in there. So there was a group of them that were making
okay,
that decision. And it's super interesting. So, and people are like, what? How is this set up? So on the first floor at Cody Dental Group, we had an entire x-ray department. So
okay,
we, the hygienists, were not even taking x-rays. I didn't take x-rays.
okay.
So like I would be like, oh, you need bite wings. So next time you come in, stop at the first floor 10 minutes before you come see me. So we had this like beautifully massaged system, but it wasn't efficient. And so I knew this wouldn't last. I knew that I'm like, this place cannot sustain the way we're running because so much of the way we're
Yeah.
running these days is like you have to optimize. And for the patients, like you do bite wings once a year. The hygienists are doing it. And now they're doing scans in the mouth and they're doing all these different things. And I knew we were trailing far enough behind that soon this ship was going to sink.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more. Okay, so you're a
Mhm.
hygienist. Did you feel because you weren't able to do the scans and do the x-rays and do the other stuff, did that affect your skill level in a negative way?
Um, yes and no. So when I went back out into the dental field, from being there for so
Uh-huh.
long, all of a sudden I'm like running back down to the x-ray department. I'm like, hey, can you run me through a FMX real quick? Because it has been a few years since I've actually done this. So then I had to all of a sudden
Right.
kind of like jump back in and it comes back quickly. And I was able to jump into an office and do those things.
Yeah.
But there is a little bit of, there was this group of us who had all been there for a very long time that had kind of gotten cozy in our little spot. And then all of a sudden back
Right.
out and I'm like, okay, this is how the dental world's running. And that's what like really opened my eyes of how fast everything's changing and how we are not at all like these hygienists are not capable of keeping up with it unless they take care of themselves and the same with the doctors and the same with the assistants and the front office because what we're demanding like that's not going to change. We're going to
Okay, so let me ask you this question now. I've got a couple more
yeah,
questions about the DSO thing
yeah,
because this really fascinates
absolutely,
me. So how old were and then I want to transition to the healthcare side of it
absolutely.
because this is something I see a
Yep.
lot as well. So when the DSO, when these guys sold, were they older dentists
There,
or
there
younger
was a
dentists?
mix. So there
A
was
mix.
a I mean, there was a range from 70 to 40 years old. It was kind of that range. We could not, and this is part of the problem when I saw it, we could not keep a young dentist on staff at Cody to save our lives because of the way the system was set up. And that broke my heart because I'm not the finance person. And I'm like, there's got to be a way. But I saw it. I saw young dentists come in and then they shortly after they would leave because they couldn't sustain it.
Yeah, I would say I've seen this before where sometimes the older doctors they have this kind of old school
Yeah.
mentality, if you
Yes.
will, you know, and they don't give the young guys a chance, and the young guys they want to own something. And where was this at?
In
Denver
Denver.
area?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm in Pocatello, Idaho, so I'm not too far from you. And what I've seen, and for those listeners who aren't aware of this, you have to know something about what I'm going to call the Mormon Belt. Okay. And so you take Salt Lake
Yep.
City and it used to be 150 miles from Salt Lake City radius. I think it's gone out to 300 miles now.
Yep.
And you take that, you draw a circle around that, around Salt Lake City, 300 miles, Denver's going to fall
Yep.
into that. And that's what I call the Mormon
Mhm.
Belt. And all of these guys want to own a practice.
Mhm.
And they want to at least have kind of ownership of a
Right.
practice. So why is it so concentrated like that? It's because they want to be by mom or their wife's
Yep.
mom or both
Yep.
moms. Okay. And that is such a huge driving factor. But because of the way the religion works, there's also another strong driver is like, I want to be an owner. I want to be self sufficient. I want to do all this. And they're going to do
Mhm.
it. So if the old owners don't recognize that spirit, they're going to have a problem. And then sometimes what I see in the older owners is like, well, we've always done it this way. The system works this way. It's worked well for us. And to be frank with you, they're being kind of selfish and they kind of know it. Okay. They kind of know it. So I can see like the 70-year-old guy probably made out like a bandit. And then the younger doctor's probably like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And I would be surprised that many of those younger doctors stayed around because a lot of times I see the DSO world. So this is kind of no, because I deal with this a little bit. My clients, they say, hey, I got a DSO talking to me. Should I sell to them? And here's my rule. It's very simple. Is if you're at the end of stage of your career, probably not a bad idea.
Right.
It's probably not a bad idea. But if you're like 40, 50 and you want to work more years, not a good idea. Wait till the end, then sell. They think they're going to cash out. They think they're going to have this cushy life. They think they're going to enjoy their job. None of those things are going to be true. You might get some money, but you're not going to enjoy the job because you're no longer the guy.
Correct.
Somebody else is the guy. And then you got a finance guy like me telling you what you're going to do. And all we care about is the numbers. Like, we don't care about if you're enjoying it. You know, we just care about the numbers. Now, I'm a different kind of finance guy because I'm not that like impersonal, but I know my profession. And I know when you give the finance guy the wrong power, they will abuse it. And I'm sure all the DSOs out there, if they listen to this, are going to like disagree with me because they're great sales guys, right? They're the charming sales guys. That guy takes you to lunch, he takes you to dinner, and he tells you how awesome it's going to be. It's not going to be awesome.
No.
And I know that because I've seen it happen, you know. It's not going to be awesome. And then if it's not awesome for the doctor, it's also not awesome for the staff. Okay, so that answers my question. Okay, so now let's fast forward to your thing about fitness. Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that now, because the demands of the 2020, 25 hygienists are so physical that if they don't take care of themselves, they're going to not make it in the job. Let me share with you three things. A couple of things. Number one, and I want you to speak to this, is I know 2 hygienists, or actually maybe 3, who have went from kind of full-time to part-time work because it's not just like wearing them out. It's actually breaking down their body. It's actually worse than just saying I'm tired. It's like I have carpal tunnel in my hands, or my back is bent over, or they're having problems. Okay, so I'm gonna let you talk for a minute. I want to hear about this.
No, I think that you're right on with all of this. Because of technology and because of the changing dental field, things are accelerating so fast. And every day, this is kind of how I equate it. The dental industry is hyper-focused right now on constructing high-efficient offices that run like a racetrack.
Okay.
So more dental operatories, hygiene assistants, assisted hygiene, assistant scaling, like there's just so much controversy. And what happened was, according to the ADA, after the pandemic, half of the workers never came back. So half of the hygienists never came back to work. So this became a huge problem. Then the hygienists compromised their positions. And I can say that because I am one. So we went from, I can give you some numbers here. We went from around, I mean, it depends on the state, but I can say around $48 to $50 an hour. After the pandemic, it went 50, 60, 70, 80, $90 an hour. So hygienists were getting $90 an hour.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Like unreal. I was like, this isn't going to last. So I'm like watching this unfold. In that, the hygienists all of a sudden started to kind of like focus on this hyper individualism. Like, I am worth this and I'm gonna do it. They are so valuable. We need all of them. They are the heartbeat of the practice. They're who the patients come to see. We need them, but we have to remember that like we're asking a lot of you, and all I'm seeing across the board are these like hygienists complaining, and they're like, assistants are going to start scaling. Of course, the assistants, like legally, they will start scaling because the dentist cannot employ you at that rate anymore. So we kind of got to like restructure this. And if you're going to keep up with the demands of now everyone else is leveling up, you got to level up. And the biggest thing I see is physical problems. Mentally, they are the victims. And I'm like, this has to stop. So nobody is taking into account that When you, and a lot of people are like, oh, are you going to talk about diets? No, I will not talk about diets. I will not talk about low calorie. That's not my thing. My thing is that we now all have to run like a Ferrari on these tracks. And I'll just say the dental industry, it's not just hygienists, it's the assistants, it's the front office. It's like we're running these Ford Pintos on this racetrack. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
guys can't do this. You want to keep up? You have to start taking care of yourself. And it's not go on a diet, it's the entire dental industry is under muscled. And that's like my biggest thing.
Okay. This is so interesting. So we hired a doctor in one of our offices. Great
Uh-huh.
guy. I can't remember if he's 6'5" or 6'6".
So,
And I have this weird thing in my mind that says 5'10" is the tallest you should be to be a dentist. Not because you can't be a good dentist. It's just because you have to bend over
all
a
day.
lot and
Yeah.
it's like a very physical
Yes.
job. And so I have some guys that are taller. And you might think, well, what does this have to do with finances? Well, it's like, because if you can't work,
You
you
can't
can't
make
make
money.
money.
This podcast is sponsored by Snake River Payroll, your hassle-free solution to all payroll needs. With fast, reliable service, they take care of your payroll so you can focus on what matters most. Snake River Payroll, payroll made simple. Visit srstaff.net today.
You gotta work
Yeah.
out, or like one of my clients, he had kind of gained some weight and I'm like, you're gonna have to do something about that. And I didn't want to be mean about it. It's just like, you can't work hard. This is to your point, right? You can't work
No.
hard if you're overweight. So what is your solution? I mean, you got my curiosity. What is your
Yeah.
solution?
Well, to your point, you're 100% right. People, what I
Yeah.
see is people don't think that this affects their productivity, but it does.
Yeah.
If you start taking care of your body, number one, your mind performs better. Okay. So
Yeah.
you're going to be sharper there. You're going to be able to last longer because people are like, oh, I'm burnt out. I'm like, of course you're burnt out. You literally do not have the fuel in your system to carry you through an 8-hour day that is turning over every single hour. It is a very demanding place working in a dental office. So there are three things that I think need to happen in the dental industry. And not all are related
Okay.
to the physical, some are, but one, I think dental professionals have to start shifting their mindset to service. Over the past 5 years, we've like totally forgotten that we're actually taking care of people. And it's, you
Okay.
guys have to get back into this tribal mentality that like you're working together as a team, you're here for the collective. You have to make this work for the people you serve. Second, they
Okay.
have to master their body. So strength training, non-negotiable. You have to strength train. You are bent over all day. Your body cannot sustain that. You cannot sustain. I remember when I first started at Cody, one of the hygienists who had been there for
Right.
decades literally had like this hump on her back. And I was like, oh, this is going to happen. And she was the most
Yeah.
amazing
Right.
hygienist. But I'm like, you cannot sustain this. The thing that holds your skeletal muscle up is your muscles. Your posture, your balance is all skeletal muscle. When you increase your skeletal muscle, you increase your brain function. So many people think that it's muscle is just movement. It's not. It's a communication organ. So literally when you constrict your muscles, do a bicep curl, anything along those lines, you release something that scientists are now calling myokines, which is they call them hope molecules. And they directly affect
Okay.
BDNF, which is your brain derived neurotrophic factor, which is your mood, neuroplasticity, and neurogenesis. So this is learning new things, which is constantly happening in the dental field, and it's your ability
Okay.
to adapt to situations. So this all relates together.
Okay. So I got two questions. One is, what exercises would you give a
Uh-huh.
hygienist? Say these are my top, whatever, three, top five exercises that they should be
Right.
doing regularly. What are those
So
exercises?
essentially, when I work with clients, it's this: where are you at? Because I could go in and be like, let's work out five. Like, no, no, no. Where are you at? Because wherever you're at, we're going to increase it a little. If you're not working out at all, 1 day a week. I'm not going to go in and say, because it's so bio individual, you have to be able to adapt. I think the big thing with any sort of exercise and nutrition is people are intimidated. They think it's this really big, complicated thing, and it doesn't need to be. So let's say you're like, I work out like once a week. Okay, great. Let's go to 2 days a week. If we go to 2 days a week, we have one upper body day and we have one lower body day. If you are like, oh, I work out too, great, let's go to three. We're going to do 2 upper body days, one lower body day. The next week, we're going to flip it. 2 lower body days, one upper body day. Make it simple.
Okay.
Make it simple.
But what like, I mean, is there like, I guess I'm curious for
Yeah.
myself. So like, are you telling that, because women or men are going to work out differently, right? So like for women, are you saying do bench press, like dumbbell
Uh-huh.
press? I mean, what are you
Right.
suggesting that they do? And like for legs, what's your go-to upper body exercise and your go-to
Uh-huh.
lower body
And
exercise?
I will say a lot of people, they ask this, and I get I get kind of funny on it, and I'm like, all I want you to do is go pick up something heavy and set it down. Because really, it's as simple as that. I want you to have resistance training. But for hygienists, I want you to do anything to do with your back. Lat pull downs, lateral, like anything for your back. This is what's bent over. Additionally, I want you to work your chest. And so many, especially females, are like, well, I don't want to do bench press. I don't want to do that. And they're afraid. And I'm like, listen, because of the way we sit all day, it is vital that one, you are working posterior and anterior parts of your body so that your structure can actually sit up. When you work your chest, you're actually working a lot of your shoulders. So it's pulling everything back. You have to be able to compensate for what you're doing 9 hours a day. So that's what I say, like,
Yeah.
do, and I mean, there's like a whole range, but if you are doing 10 to 12 sets a week and hitting a specific body part twice, that is going to progress you much further. You don't have to overcomplicate this. I'm going to hit my back twice a week,
Okay.
10 to 12 sets a week. I'm going to hit my chest twice a week. I'm going to hit my legs twice a week. And it doesn't need to be 12 hours, and like it can be short workouts. For lower body, anything like a deadlift is going to work your entire posterior chain. So you're going to hit your entire everything, your back, your glutes, your hamstrings. You're going to hit it all with a deadlift. So I love a deadlift because of that. Squats,
When you suggest on the deadlift, are you suggesting like with a bar or dumbbells or?
anything. Start out with dumbbells. Start out with something, and
Okay.
everyone's like, how much do you lift? I'm like, it's not about the weight. It's when I feel resistance, when you feel resistance, when you're saying, okay, my muscles are working hard. That's when those that's when those chemicals are released. So it's
Yeah.
not about like, oh, I got to just go to the max. It's about that. Another thing with women, especially as we age, very
Mhm.
beneficial to do any sort of carrying. Put dumbbells in your hand and carry them for a minute. Walk around the gym, just carry them. It's called a farmer's carry. Hugely beneficial. Ideally, you can carry half your weight. Most people, I'm not going to throw them at that out of the gates. I'm going to say, I want you to start lower. Take your body weight, cut it in half, carry that for a minute. That is hugely beneficial. And it's not complex. You're literally picking up dumbbells and you're walking with them.
Yeah, that's a hard
Yeah,
exercise, I
yeah.
think.
Because
So,
that,
it's good for your grip,
yes,
right? It gets your grip too. I mean, because holding, for 100 steps or something,
exactly.
it's going to get your
Exactly.
grip,
So start at a lower
your grip
weight
pretty.
and then work yourself up. So, yeah, I mean, it's basic. And I think the biggest thing I preach is I don't want to make it complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated.
So, do you help the dentist as well think
100%.
about their fitness? Because I think some dentists, I mean, some could do better. Let's put it
They
that way.
can.
So, you
And I
know,
will tell you,
yeah.
if they change these simple things, their productivity in the office would change. It reflects, like if you take care of your body, it reflects in every other area of your life. And that's what's hard for me is like to see these dental professionals and to work with dentists who like just don't take care of themselves. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you're going to fall apart at the seams when you're still really passionate about this dental thing, but like you're not taking care of yourself. Like you could thrive, you could be more productive, you could serve more patients if you're taking care of yourself in that way.
Plus, even just the longevity, right? So somebody can maybe get an extra year or two in their career
Yeah.
or by taking care of themselves. I'm actually kind of surprised. Maybe it's talked about more than I realized, but I'm just kind of surprised that like I said, even like these taller
Yes.
dentists, I think they have more of a challenge than a shorter dentist. And I would assume that's the same with a
Hmm.
hygienist, that a taller one has a more and if people think I'm picking on you, I'm
Sure.
not. I mean, if you look at every sport in the
Yeah.
whole world, you can almost look at somebody and say, oh, they make a good
Right.
gymnast, or they make a good
Right.
basketball player, or they make a good volleyball player, just because there is a certain body type
There is.
that, not 1,000%, but, only 995% of the time, it kind of lines up,
Right.
right? And so I kind of wonder about that sometimes in dental careers in particular, because I just look at the body type and I just am like, okay, that's, you're gonna have to work, you're gonna have to try a little bit harder. And I know some that are really a little taller, but they do a really good job of taking care of
Right.
themselves, but still you can't like fight the
You
height,
can't. Yeah, like that's
because of
something
the
you
big
cannot
because
change. Like you're stuck.
so let's talk about this. What ergonomic changes should a dental office make? Okay, because there's one thing about working
Sure.
out, right? There's another thing about like having, like if I'm modifying my body to the equipment when there's better equipment out there, well, why am I doing
Right.
that? So, how
Yeah.
would you advise somebody
No,
on
that's
that
great.
thing?
So one thing that I've seen change over time in dentistry, one is the chairs. Okay. So
Okay,
saddle chairs are really big in dentistry right now, and you
okay,
can spend thousands on them. They're going to help your posture when you sit because of how your pelvic bone is angled.
right.
That being said, I've tried numerous ones. I ended up buying one off of Amazon that I think was $100, and it was my favorite chair ever. So it was like relatively inexpensive. I literally would take it from office to office, like I'd be walking in with my chair. They were like, "You brought your own chair?" And I was like, "Yeah, I brought my own chair because I feel good with this."
Do you have an Amazon shopping
I
list?
should. I don't, but it literally,
You should. You should. We'll put it on
yeah.
our link if you have,
But it was $100 and it's my favorite chair. I have sat in others that are thousands, and I can't say that they're, for me personally, they weren't far superior. So that's one thing. I've seen a
Yeah.
ton of change in the chairs that the clinicians use, dentist assistant and hygienists. Additionally, a lot more hygienists are standing when they're working. I have seen that over time. There's been a lot more temp hygienists that we see in offices. And I was like, everyone's
Okay.
standing, but it kind of makes sense. I kind of like it. So I started to stand a little bit too. And I was like, yeah, like I can stand all day. Another thing is I worked with a dentist who was very tall. And every time he came into my room, he never sat. One, he was only in my room for 2 to 5 minutes. So every time he just had me raise the patient up very high because he's tall, but he never sat. He just was like, no, just raise him up. So I see a lot more of that. I see a lot more of the standing while working on patients. So that's the other thing.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Mhm.
Because, like, I asked the question when we had the super tall dentist. I go, "How tall is the assistant?"
Yeah.
And the office manager said, "Well, she's actually super small." I'm like, "Well, how does that work?"
Right.
And you got these height differentials. But I guess they're finding a way to make it work. But my point was like, hey, I'm willing to invest in some equipment because I don't want people getting hurt doing something that's repetitive. There's just no
Yeah.
point in it. It's just worth paying a little bit more. So, like, I am kind of a chair snob. So in my office, we have really nice
Mhm.
chairs, but what I found is in those really nice chairs, kind of your typical office chair, but I found myself always like in 5 minutes, I would be basically almost laying down in the chair,
Yeah.
because you just kind of slink
Yeah.
out of it. And so then I went to a chair with those because my neighbor did this, where you kind of put your knees
Yeah.
around. And I thought, well, that was kind of good on my back. Then after doing that for a few months, my knees were hurting so
Yeah.
bad that I had to stop doing that. And then I went to one of those kind of ball chairs, which I like those. Okay, the ones where you sit in the
I'm
ball
curious. Yeah.
in the
I'm
ball,
curious.
those.
You liked it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. But here's what I didn't like about it is when I'm doing a podcast or
Yeah.
something, it's really noisy and loud.
Oh, okay.
So I had to stop using them, but I liked it because it forced me to have good posture. I couldn't
Yeah.
slouch or it fall. It actually had happened a couple of times. I'm embarrassed to say, but like it fall out because I maybe got too
Yeah.
casual. So what I'm sitting on now, I bet very few people are sitting on this. I'm sitting on a piano bench
Okay.
and I'm leaning
Okay.
forward, and I find it super comfortable because I spend a lot of time on a piano bench playing the piano,
Because
and it's kind of the same feel as leaning forward and typing. So it's like a very comfortable position for
Yeah.
me. And I can sit on this all day long. It's not noisy. I have to keep pretty good posture doing it. And it's easy. And then in the case of my office at home, it's super easy because now I don't have two chairs in there. I just have one.
Yeah.
And I just switch the bench to wherever I'm at that moment. And it works. For me, it works really well. I don't think it'll work well for a dentist, but I do think equipment's important. So we make sure that everybody has two ginormous monitors.
Yes.
Because one is more productive, but two, when we bought these offices, they had a 19-inch monitor or something. First thing I thought, yeah, we're not, that's
Right.
out of here because I'm losing money by having bad equipment.
Right. 100%.
I'm losing
Right.
money. And I don't think dentists and office people realize you're losing money when you have bad equipment.
100%.
And so you got to invest in good equipment, good ergonomic equipment, because if you have a good hygienist, but they can't work, they go from full-time to part-time.
Yep.
Because your equipment sucks. Yep. This happens all the time, right? So now on a mass scale, if there's only a bunch of part-time hygienists, guess what? The price for hygienists went up to like the $90.
Exactly.
Which is unaffordable.
No, you can't sustain that. A hygienist, this is the thing I wish hygienists understood and they don't. A hygienist needs to be producing 3 times what they're making out of their operatory in an hour. So
I like that.
If you have a hygienist making 70 an hour, that hygienist needs to be producing 210 an hour every hour. And that's to make ends meet. That's to pay your overhead. That's not so the doctor can go drive some fancy car. I mean, this is like, we got to get supplies. We have to buy new instruments every so often. We have to upgrade our equipment. So there's this miss where it's like hygienists have just kind of run and been like, I'm worth all that. Okay, but you also have to look at the other side that you're pulling in because offices don't survive on that.
Do you see very many dentists paying on commission? Say like they get paid 33%.
Mhm.
Okay, so that forces you to stay at the number.
Yeah.
Right? So if you make $200 an hour or $210 an hour, you get your $70.
Right.
If you only do $100 an hour, you get your $33.
There it is.
I like that model actually. I think what we suggest to people is like 30%. Because if they're a W-2 employee, when the taxes all settle out, it's going to kind of be in the 33 to 35% range, with the taxes and everything, unemployment tax, benefits and whatnot. And that's kind of a high number. Yeah. We've had it work a few times. I do have one guy I'm working with, his hygienist wanted 50%. And I'm like, yeah, I'd already implemented that before he started working with us. And we're like, yeah, you got to change that. And now she's complaining about it, obviously. And I said, well, your CFO said the most you're allowed is 30%. I go, just make me the bad guy. I just say, my CFO said the most I can do is 30%. Make me the bad guy. I'm totally okay being the bad guy. That's why you pay me. So if she gets mad, I don't want her mad at you because you have to work with her. But she can be mad at me,
Okay, I'm super curious. Was this 50% of production or collections?
I think it was production. Yeah, it was terrible.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. One of my workers is also a hygienist a little bit. And she kind of had to stop because it's physically hard. And that's when I kind of got first introduced to how physical the hygienist job was. In fact, maybe my dentist will be mad at me for saying this, but I saw a young lady the other day at a family thing. And I said, well, what are you going to go into? She goes, dental hygiene. And I said, don't. I said, don't. Become a nurse. I said, don't. And she goes, well, why? I go, they make good money. It's good if you want to be a mom. I go, yeah, they do make good money, but it's physically very hard. The job is kind of limited. Whereas a nurse, there's like 1,000 types of nurses. And I said, if you get your RN, you could actually advance to become a nurse practitioner sometime in the future, which is what my oldest girl did. She went from being an RN and now she's a nurse practitioner. And it gives her a lot of creativity and flexibility that's not going to happen with a hygienist. So, for those of you hearing this, I'm sorry, that's what I advise her. And that's what I'd advise almost everybody, because I think there needs to be some robotics in dental hygiene. Like, where's my robots?
Yep. The biggest thing that I see is with burnout is to speak to what you said. In hygiene, you are doing the same thing over and over again, 8 to 9 times a day. There was a time I was seeing 10 patients a day. Yeah. So 10 times a day, I'm turning over. Now, I am somebody who loves routine. I thrive on that. So for me, great fit, works good. But there is no prefrontal cortex freedom in hygiene. And this is
Yeah.
where they get irritated, and this is where they get burnt out. There is nowhere to go. They have nowhere to run because once you come out of hygiene school, you're a hygienist. You're kind of at the ceiling. So there's no
Exactly.
freedom there. They can't get creative and be like, what can I do? You can, but it takes really thinking outside of the box and working with hygienists. And that's another thing with this mindset that drives me bananas. It's like, we know they don't have any of this creativity freedom. This is what will drive somebody insane. We also know that hygienists typically, not all, but typically are very type A personality people, and they're go-getters. So then
Okay.
you get this like clash of these type A personalities. They come out of school and they're done. So it's like you got to be able to
Hmm.
find something else. But I wanted to touch back on the commission part with you.
Okay, let's go back.
Sorry, the 16 years that I was at Cody, I was 100% commission.
Hey everyone, Carl with Dr. CFO. Hope you're doing well today. I wanted to share with you our new Office Superhero Workbook for 2025. It's not actually just a book. If you're an owner, there's an assignment that your office manager needs to complete in the workbook, and then they return this workbook to you to show you all of the wonderful things that they have done or things that they still need to do to make your practice better. Pick one up, reach out to me, Carl at drcfo.com, and we'll get one to you. Thanks and have a great day.
100%.
Okay, I like it.
That was very, and it scared me when I went to go work there. They're like, we're 100% commission. And at the time, I'm like, 21, 22, I'm on my own living. And I'm like, I can't have a commission job. Like, and the owner of Cody, I
Yeah.
told him, I was like, listen, I'm a little hesitant to take this job. And he brought me in. He's like, I want to go over the books with you. I want you to see what our hygienists are making to give you some reassurance in this situation. So he brought me in and he like opens the books, at the time were paper, and he's like, here's last month's for our 8 hygienists. And this is their take home. Like, it is possible to make this. We fill your schedule. And so I went for it. But that is a very scary place for hygienists these days. When Cody was bought out by the DSO, they flipped us all to hourly, and we all were like, what? What is this? But
Yeah.
generally, if you talk to a hygienist and tell them you're going to put them on commission, they're not going to be happy. So it's
No, what was the percentage they gave you?
32.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
really good. I think that's exceptional. That's 2% higher than I would
Yeah.
recommend. And I would actually try to get it at 25%, but that might be a little bit unreasonable just because of the way the reimbursement rates come from insurance. You kind of like, you can't just charge whatever you want unless you're a concierge type of
Nope.
dentist. You're kind of a little, you'll have a top rate from the insurance company. So you kind of have to kind of calculate what you think the work will be done. So if you're commission based, you are incentivized to do a couple different things. You're incentivized to maybe skimp on corners, right? I mean, that's one of the downsides. One of the positives is you're incentivized to be super efficient and maybe come up with ideas or innovations that didn't exist prior. So can you share with us maybe an innovation or two that you came up with during your time?
I think when you come out of school, when you're in school, you have 4 hours
Yeah.
for one patient. You come out of school, you at that point immediately have 1 hour. So you have to take all your training you had and working with the patient for 4 and condense it into 1. Over time, you get very good at running the system and knowing, like, okay, this patient's late. And any patient who is late has to use the bathroom. It's a given. They're going to come in, they're going to have to use the bathroom. Like, you just got to know that's how it's going. I used to have patients come in late and I'd be like, bathroom's right over there. Like, oh, thanks. Like, I already know. I already know you're going to make me run late. I already know that. So you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to change and say, okay, the perio chart was done within a year. I don't need to do the perio charting today. What's most important for that patient at that point today? Like, what do we need to get done? Are they coming in? Do they have a complaint that the doctor needs to come in here? Do they have a
Right.
complaint where I actually need an extra x-ray? Because I'm going to take that immediately. So the doctor has it and can look at it in his operatory while I'm finishing the cleaning. You have to be able to know that every single hour is going to run a little bit differently. And your patients are going to be late and they're going to be in the bathroom. And then something else is going to happen. But as a hygienist, we tend to get like, we just do so. And it's like, you got to go with the flow on that one. Are you going to be able to do everything? No, you can't.
I want to talk about two more things. I want to talk about one, kind of what you're doing in the industry today as a consultant. And I want to then pivot to, like, say you're I call you the dental director or the dental dictator. And I want you to say, okay, I'm the dental dictator for a day. This is what I want to see the whole industry change to.
Yeah.
So while you're telling us about what you're doing today as a consultant, then you can pivot to telling us what you would do as a dental dictator. So talk a little bit about your consulting and what you're doing to help our office.
So my consulting, I have a couple different ways you can go about it. One-on-one. I will work with anybody, and it doesn't matter the profession. My heart is in dentistry, but across the board doesn't matter. I don't care if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, it doesn't matter because it's all the same. How are you showing up day to day? Are you exhausted? Are you overwhelmed? Are you feeling like, you know what? I feel like I can't keep up with the demands of this. And then I come home and it's just a balance. You have to be able to find balance. And it's pushing up against what I'm seeing in the medical and the dental world. It's all accelerating and it's not going to stop. None of it's going to stop.
So what are your outcomes that you're hoping for your clients to get? Like, you get somebody say, like, a broken down hygienist. What is your goal for them, and what time frame is it? 3 months, 6 months, 12 months?
Right.
What's your goal?
So my goal
What
is
do they
to
look
have
like?
every single professional to move from being under muscled to muscled because their entire life, their longevity, their career, their productivity will increase. And I want to see that from like 0 to 3 months, we go. And I want people who are committed, who are like, okay, I see the benefit of this. The diseases that we are seeing of aging are all related to skeletal muscle. Your brain function, skeletal muscle, all of it.
Do you come to them or do they come to
So I
you?
do all virtual, but I will tell you, I'm
Okay.
speaking at the dental festival in Florida, and then I'm speaking again in Phoenix. So my
Okay.
passion is to totally spread the word. I go to speak on that level, but in general, my calls that I do are specifically one-on-one. I also do group coaching because I know sometimes that's easier. And I have that run down. So people who want to do group coaching, it's a 6-week program. And we go through everything from your mindset. We go through sleep. Where are you at with sleep? Because there's a whole drainage system in your brain that has to drain when you're sleeping. Are you getting the sleep you need so that you can function? Are you getting enough REM sleep and deep sleep? Like, we go through all of that. We go through dietary stuff. We go through workout. We go through all of it.
Okay, so I'm looking at my watch
Yeah.
right now, and my sleep coach says you can use a lot more sleep today.
See, now I'm super
And
curious. I'm like, well, wait, where are you at? Where are your numbers at? I want to know. Like,
yeah, it said I did a bad job.
oh,
And I kind of laugh about it because it's funny, but I find myself looking at it,
uh-huh.
oh, it gives you a sleep score. I'm going to tell you my
Okay.
sleep score for
Okay.
today, and you're going to get on my case, okay?
Okay.
So I'm using the Garmin
Okay.
watch, the 965. So it gives me a score of 59.
Okay.
You probably get on my case, right?
I would say there's probably some room for improvement on your sleep score, but you would feel better.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
what tools would you recommend somebody using? Should they be wearing, like, what, an Apple Watch, a Garmin watch, or does it matter? I
Doesn't
don't
matter
know.
at all. I love them. I personally wear the Oura Ring. I love the Oura Ring.
Oh, you do?
Yep. So
What's
that's what
okay?
I use.
That's interesting. I tried one of those, but I felt so weird on my finger. I felt like, man, it's just like huge,
They're bulky.
So
It took me a while to get used to it.
yeah.
But I love the stats that it tracks. But sometimes
Okay.
it'll like pop up at me and it's like, you were extra stressed today. And I'm like, thanks, I know.
Have you heard of something called the Pulsetto or the what is it, Pulsetto? And then there's another one called Muse Band. Have you heard
I
of
haven't
these
heard
at
of that.
all? The Muse Band or the
I'll have to
Pulsetto?
look them up.
Yeah, you might want to
Yeah.
look at those. The Muse Band is something that you wear. I've tried one out, and you wear it, and it makes you play a game.
Oh.
And the game is it's trying to get you to relax.
Okay.
So if you're not relaxed, I can't remember, like, if the birds are flying, you're relaxed, but if the birds are dying, you're not staying in the moment.
Okay.
Okay. It's really kind of interesting, and it forces you to think
Yeah.
differently. And then this Pulsetto thing is something that goes around your neck and it hits what's called I'm gonna get this messed up. It's like some big nerve in your neck, the vagus
The
nerve or
vagus
something
nerve.
like that. Vagus nerve,
Yeah.
something like that. And it shocks that, and it's supposed to Yeah, well, you can
I'm
look it up.
super
It's called
yeah, okay.
Pulsetto, and it's supposed to help people relax. I don't know. I like looking at some of this technology because it's kind of
It's
interesting,
super
you know. And I know people have had challenges that have tried this technology. There's a guy I like to listen to called the Medical
Mhm.
Futurist, and there's another guy called, I forget what he's called. He's kind of like a ADHD guy. I don't know. He's always trying out these different
Yeah,
devices, and it's hard for me not to watch it because I'm like, wow, this
yeah.
guy's kind of weird, but oh
It's
well, it's kind of fun to watch. Okay, so I think that's good advice. Okay, so now you're the dental dictator.
mhm.
Where do you want to see this industry change? And if you could like say, this is what we're doing, what are we doing? What are the changes you're gonna make? What are your top three
Top 3
changes?
changes, I think I started talking about this earlier. 1,
Yeah.
there has to be a mindset shift back to service. We have
Okay.
completely hyper individualized ourselves, and it's been easy because we're all looking on social media, we're all looking at these things, we all have these outlets to complain, and it's kind of, in my opinion, you gotta bring it back. You have to bring it back to you are actually serving people and you contribute to the collective. Like, we are all part of this
Okay.
working together. So that is number 1. 2, master your body. This is my biggest thing. You heard me complain about it. But
Okay.
3, also in any domain, in anything, claim responsibility. Leadership in the tribal sense is not about dominance. It is about accountability. So it doesn't matter if you're a front office, if you're an assistant, if you're a nurse, if you're a hygienist, it doesn't matter. Claim dominance. Like, it's not about that dominant thing. It is about claiming responsibility in your domain. And this is where I think you find that
Okay.
prefrontal cortex freedom that hygienists struggle with. What are you good at? How can you bring that to the dental field? Bring your creativity and show leadership, regardless of what it is. What do you love to do? What are you good at? Find that and lead with it and lead with integrity. And you lead everyone together because with our brains, the person on top, consciously or subconsciously, will set the tone. So if we're all
Okay.
working to be on top, if we're all working to bring our best, to bring what we can contribute essentially to the tribe, that's where I came up with the tribal playbook. It's like we got to get back to a tribal mentality because we have to survive on this. And we all just have siloed ourselves into individuals and we lost it. And it was like, oh, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to be a hygienist, and I'm going to make my $90 an hour and my body hurts and I'm gonna complain, I'm gonna go home. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You are showing up every day for patients who need you, for patients who don't know how to take care of their teeth and their health, their gums, and all these things without you. You play a role.
Okay, so I'm gonna play that
Yeah,
psychologist for a second here. So, I'm not one, I just play one on
right.
podcasts. But we talked about your Cody Dental
Yeah,
group, right? And you talked about how you love the sense of the
I
tribe.
do.
So you're missing that.
Oh,
So there was something special about that group that you wish the other groups
oh, so like
Is that fair to
100%.
say?
So anybody who's close to me knows that the loss of Cody Dental Group like broke my heart because these
Okay.
were doctors who really shaped me. These were patients who I carried for enough years that they were like family. And so to watch this, and I watched it happen, and we had something there,
Yeah.
but what we had there did not keep up with what you do. You do the financial side.
Right.
And that's where, like, I don't have that background or that knowledge. So they did some things correct and they did some things incorrect. How do we
So we'd like to merge the best of both worlds, right?
exactly.
So in your book, do you talk about this culture that was lost and missed?
Oh, I would absolutely. Because when my first job, actually my first job was for a DSO. This was before I went to hygiene school. So I had
Okay.
no dental knowledge. I didn't know anything. So they had me filing charts because there were charts at the time. It's gonna, but
Right.
I was doing anything. I got into this situation where the doctor would say, we live next to like a retirement community. And he'd be like, I need you to go pick up this patient. Go get the keys off my desk and take my Lexus. I became like the office Uber, which is highly illegal now. You cannot do this anymore. But at the
Yeah.
time, I would go and I'm like picking up the patients, taking them to their room because they're all, they're elderly. One time he was like, hey, can you stop by the drugstore and get her? I mean, I don't even know what she needed, but she needed something. And I was like, sure.
Right.
And it became like I saw this like way that we cared about patients in a way that, one, is no longer legal, but two, it's just not really there anymore.
Well, why should it be illegal to do that?
Oh, because they have run into situations where I'm trying to remember specifically what it was, but there was a doctor that got sued because he had an assistant or a front desk or somebody leave during working hours, and she got in an accident, and somehow it came back on the doctor. And yeah,
Him. Yeah.
and so
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that trying to do good things
right,
punishes everything.
right,
So maybe that should be added to your
right,
list as we need to improve the legal system so that you can still be a good
right.
person and not get punished for it.
Yeah,
You know, that's too bad. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's too bad. Sometimes the lawyers, I have a lot of lawyer
mhm,
friends, but sometimes some of the profession, and my profession, is guilty of it too. We just kind of lose our souls
mhm,
worrying about the number or worrying about winning this case,
right.
or something like that. And I'm going to transition to something kind of funny. So I remember watching a cartoon. You're thinking, oh no, cartoons. He's got cartoons. Well, this cartoon, it was kind of interesting. I think it was the guy with the ring, the green,
Yeah,
whatever it
okay.
was, the
Yeah,
green. Okay, a Green Lantern.
okay.
He was in trouble for something, and so he had to go to the planet where all the Green Lantern mines were there. And I think it was the Flash was going to be his lawyer. And so, they're at this other planet, and the Flash is going to be his lawyer. And the guys at the big head said, hey, just so you know, whatever crime Green Lantern is convicted of, you'll also be convicted of it. And he's like, well, that's not very
Yeah.
fair. He's like, and then they said, that's how we fixed our lawyer problem. That is one of the greatest things I've ever heard on
Well,
cartoons, and it's just
yeah.
stuck with me. So, I'll throw it out there. That would be an interesting result. Well, I'm gonna let you wrap it up and give us like your final words of wisdom or just the thought that we didn't say today that you want to leave everybody with.
No, I want the dental professionals to be encouraged, because I think
Okay.
through all of this, so many of them that I talk to, they feel like they're breaking. They feel like they have to leave the industry. That is the biggest thing I'm seeing. They're all saying like, "What else can I do?" And I want to say, please do not leave because we need every one of you. People are out there that need us. We have to get back to a place where we can thrive in it, where we can feel like we can show up to work physically and mentally and not feel like we're broken. But see the pressures that we're feeling in the dental industry as a catalyst to change and grow, and not that we're breaking, but you're just becoming. That's kind of my thing. You're not breaking, you're becoming. So that's my big one.
Yeah, I really like that message because a lot of my clients are struggling with staff and retaining staff, and this message has definitely supports
Good.
that. So that's a phenomenal message. So I appreciate that. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up, but I want you to stay on for a second because I have a business idea for you that I'm only going to share with you, and the rest of the audience doesn't get to hear it.
Well,
So it's a teaser to them. And so thanks so much, Kalee. I really appreciate
no,
your
thank you.
time and
Great.
energy, what you're doing to help the dental profession.
Absolutely. Thank you.